Welcome back to City Scene. We are on the roads and streets, and not really on the roads, right?
Next to the road.
Next to the road. It's a good place to be because you don't want to stand in the middle of the road.
That's right.
See, that's why we got Mike Montaigne from the police department to give us safety tips to get us through life, right?
Sure.
Sergeant, congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And now he's in charge of the traffic division, guys that are out there running safety and speeding, things like that. Tell us, when Brewington was in charge, started this initiative to try and really get out and reduce speeding in the city. How's that going so far?
It's going good. And where Brewington started was he was looking at Greenville, looking at the intersections, trying to say, okay, what are our top 10 intersections in Greenville? And Brewington did a great job of identifying the top 10 intersections and then putting our focus on those big intersections instead of just being spread out throughout the city.
It's targeted. It's that data-driven policing that your chief is always talking about.
That's exactly right. We're taking the data that's given to us by DOT through crash investigations, seeing where that fits in Greenville, finding those intersections, and then putting our officers, our motor units in those areas.
And I understand you've been looking not just at speeders, but other factors that may contribute to the crashes and try to alleviate those, right?
Sure. We're taking everything into account, the time of day, the age of the driver, the weather conditions, and all those play a factor when you're talking about a crash. And what drives our numbers up, and we use that data to do what we can to reduce our crashes, and that's what we took into account for 2013. What do we need to do, where do we need to focus to get our crashes down from where they were in 2012 down in 2013, and we were successful.
Now, I understand as you were going through the data, you found out something kind of curious about the crash reports, and that you guys were reporting things that did not need to be reported.
Yes, that's correct. What I noticed is that we were putting a lot of effort into driving down crashes in Greenville, and we were spending a lot of time in busy intersections such as this, a time of day where we need to be on the road, and we were dropping crashes by 5%, and that's right about what we dropped them in 2013. But then I started looking at what we were reporting, and Greenville's reporting somewhere around 6,000 crashes last year, and I noticed that really only about 4,500 to 5,000 are classified as reportable collisions.
Now, what's a reportable collision?
DMV is real specific on what a reportable collision is. So let's say you have a minor collision, and let's say that it's less than $1,000 worth of damage, no one's injured, no one's killed. DMV says that is not a reportable collision. So again, if it has one of those three things, it's more than $1,000 worth of damage, someone's injured or somebody's killed, that is classified by DMV standard as a reportable collision.
Okay, so you guys are changing what you do for reporting then to more accurately represent what the law and what DMV says to do.
And that's exactly what we're doing. We're basically going out to the scene because we still want to provide that service to the public. So if you're involved in a crash, we are still sending officers out to the collision scene. The officer will determine if it's a reportable crash, and if it's not a reportable crash, well then the officer will take steps to provide those drivers with information to help them go along and go to their insurance information to get what they need.
Now, if they're not going out and doing the reports for those smaller number crashes, then how are people going to determine who's at fault?
It's always been the responsibility of the insurance company to determine who is at fault. And that's a big misconception, that police officers go out to the scene, whoever gets the tickets determined to be at fault, and that's not accurate. Right. The crash report, which is called the DMV 349, is used for statistical purposes only, and that's to make the highway safety. If it's a non-reportable crash and we investigate that crash, DMV isn't using the statistics at all. So basically what we're doing is we're removing that portion of the investigation, providing the drivers with what they need to take to their insurance so that the insurance can determine who is at fault, and that's always been their responsibility.
Okay, so let me see if I get this right. You said that even if you're giving that information, DMV isn't using it, so essentially for those kind of crashes, you're just wasting your time.
Well, and that's another thing I looked at when I suggested this to management about these collision reports is if we're going to a crash and one of those three things isn't there and it's classified as a non-reportable crash and the officer still does a collision report, they're spending 45 minutes to an hour investigating a crash that DMV really isn't going to use for statistical purposes. So it does a couple of things. It saves us time, gets the officers back out on the street quicker to answer calls for service. It still provides that service to the public to get them the information they need to take to their insurance company so that the insurances can determine who is at fault.
Okay, so if an officer, say you come up on a crash and you're going to help folks out and you determine it's less than $1,000, there's no injury, there's no death, you say it's a non-reportable crash, then what if a week or two later someone with their car says, you know what, I got $1,500 worth of damage, I need a crash report?
And that is likely, and you need to remember that we're police officers, not mechanics. So This is what happens. So the officer will show up, provide them with an exchange slip of information. If we are involved in a crash, you would get my information, I would get yours. But the officers are also handing out this card. And that explains to the public, to that person who was involved in that crash, who later determines that it is a reportable crash, the steps that they need to take to come back to the police department so that that original officer who showed up on the scene can get back up with them to complete the investigation.
So they can still get a report if need be, if they meet those criteria.
That is right.
Okay, so
That's
after the fact is still okay. You guys will still take some notes and you'll be good to go.
Sure, and we want to take those crash reports because we don't want those that are determined to be reportable to be missed, because it's necessary, needed information for like I said, highway safety.
You know, when you talk about highway safety, you're talking about planning roads and making improvements, especially to areas that have high volumes of crashes, right?
Sure, and that's one way that DMV knows, okay, there may be an issue with this roadway or how this roadway is set up or this intersection, and we know that because there's a large number of crashes. And so they take those reportable crashes, look at that data, and determine, okay, maybe we need to do something with this intersection.
Maybe it's turning lanes, maybe it's different lights, maybe it's something like that, who knows?
Could be a number of things, and those reportable crashes will tell DMV that.
And you're still providing a great level of customer service by showing up for the crashes and helping out.
You will still get an officer to go out to the scene. Your officer will provide you with the information that you need to take back to your insurance company, so you are still getting that same service, while at the same time we are saving officers time on the street so they can go somewhere else.
And respond to other calls.
Sure.
Outstanding. Is there a phone number people can call for more information?
Of course. I am with the traffic division. I run that unit, and I'm available at 329-4597.
And you might be out on a call if someone calls you right away, so maybe cut you some slack and you'll get back in touch with them.
Sure, leave me a message and I will call you back.
Mike, thank you much, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.